Okay, I've had a lot of questions about how to create a live lesson that we can offer credit for our students. And so I'm going to go over the template that I've sent out. I'm going to send this out to you again. And I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can, make some changes to make it more your own, some of the things that you can do without. But we do have some basic criteria that should be in every live lesson in order for students to receive credit. I typically start with kind of a title page, letting the students know what lesson number they're going to be getting credit for. I want to make sure that they've signed in correctly. I need to have their first and last name and their teacher. This way I let the teacher know that that student had attended the live lesson. If they are not participating in the live lesson, I can send a quick IM or an email to the teacher letting them know, yes, they did attend the live lesson, but they did not participate, so they do not get credit for the live lesson. That is one of the criteria, is that students need to participate throughout the entire live lesson. It is required that the students have read the module prior to attending the live lessons. If they have not read the lessons or the entire module, there's going to be a lot of the live lesson that they won't be able to participate in, and then they won't be able to get credit for it. You should have a small block of text at some point in the lesson where they're going to do some text marking, but that's just a small portion of the module, and they should have already read that text prior to the live lesson. So if they have not read the lesson, you can always let them know that they can log out and they can join you the next week in your live lesson. This is a good opportunity to ask them, have they read the module? They can give you a green check. I like for the students to have the lesson that we're working on open in another tab in case they do need to refer to it. So, for instance, the lesson that I'm going to go over with you is going to be for the assessment for 3.07, but the text that they're going to be using is going to be from 3.02. So I would have 3.02 down in here, asking them to have that lesson open in another tab. So this is just kind of a title page. You can set it up in whatever design you want to, make it your own. This is just basically how I do them. Sometimes I add the sound check to that same page to kind of combine two slides in one. You have a lot of flexibility in how you do that. It's good to have a icebreaker, something that's going to kind of get students to have their names out, asking them some questions, things like that. This is one way that you can do an icebreaker. It also teaches them all of the tools in Blackboard. I like to have something also along with this as an icebreaker. So it's not necessary if you have this that you do have another slide that's an icebreaker, but this is definitely something that you want to include. It doesn't have to be a Simon Says game. You can do it however you want, but do have some kind of a slide where you're going to teach the students how to use the different tools in Blackboard, because even a lot of our instructors don't know all of the tools that we have available. We have a lot of tools available, and the more that they understand how to use the tools, the more they're going to interact. Just like any other lesson, you're going to want to let them know what the objective is of the lesson. I just started off with what we will accomplish. You can change that to whatever you want. I'll have the module number in there. I'll have the lesson number that they're going to be working with, not the one they're getting credit for. For instance, they're getting credit for 3.07 in the one that I'm going to use as an example, but the lesson that they're using is 3.02. So we're going to be learning 3.02 and then the name of that lesson. I'll put the objectives. You may have one objective, you may have two. One of the objectives you definitely want to have in here that they have to actively participate during the live lesson in order to receive credit. You want to just keep reinforcing that throughout the live lesson. And then the very last slide is going to show them how to submit proof of participation to receive credit for the assignment, and I'll put the assignment number up here. Again, this is something that you can be creative with, change it around. This is just the picture that I have on here. I usually will have a little picture in here that will go with whatever the lesson is, something that, fits the lesson. Change your colors, change whatever you want. Just basically for this slide, you want to have your objectives. Okay, active engagement. What does it look like? What does it not look like? There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you a little different way when I use the example for 3.07. One way is to actually have it listed. What does active engagement look like? And these are just some examples of things that you can put on here. Of course, you can change this however you want to. You can have what does it not look like, or you can just have this blank over here, and you can make it kind of like a contract. Do you agree they're going to actively participate? And they can either type their name on here, or they can use some clip art and put the clip art over here. However you want them to do that. Again, you have the flexibility to make it your own, do it however you want. Having a poll is a great way to start off. So, you can just put a poll in here. You can change the polling tools to, from yes, no to A, B, C, D, however you want it. This is a great way to get a little bit of sense of what their prior knowledge is coming into the course. Another way you're going to get some prior knowledge is by using an essential question. This is one of the criteria, is that you do have an essential question. You can put it up however you want to. Your essential question is going to be based on a standard from the course. So if you go under course information, go under the standards, that's where you find the standards for our course. Here's just kind of a quick description of what an essential question is. It should reflect the standard you're using to drive instruction. You may want to include the standard on your slide. This is predictive writing to assess the student's current background knowledge on the topic you're instructing, and for the students to share, to build background knowledge. So a lot of times there's not a right or wrong answer. And it doesn't have to come from the text. This can come from prior knowledge. We like for the students to type it up on the whiteboard. Since we do save the slides, this is something that we want to have record of, so that the teacher on record, when it is submitted, they can go back and look at this if they want to. And always ask them to type it in a complete sentence, starting with capital letters, ending with punctuation. This shouldn't just be a bunch of words up here. Another criteria that you're going to have in order to give credit is text marking. I'm going to go through an example of how to use this, and I show you the live lesson for 3.07. Just a little background on what text marking is if you have not used it before. It's expected that students have read the lesson one time already. Ideally, we want the students to read 3 times. We're assuming that they're coming into the lesson having read this text one time already. So you're going to have them do their second read and have them do some type of marking. Ask a question and have them do some type of marking. Or you can just have them read through it and not even mark it the first time, but give you a green check when they've finished reading it. This is kind of going on a trust basis if you're not having them marking it. The way that you're going to have them do the marking, this would be their third read. They're going to read a little bit deeper into the text. It can be combined with the previous slide. So instead of having 2 separate slides, you can have one. This is what you're going to see in 3.07 when I get to it. And the easiest way to do it, because you want to have a screenshot of this, and rather than having the students take the screenshot, which takes a long time, it's easier for you to do a Snagit and just, outline the slide, save it on your desktop, and then send it to the students, which I'm going to show you how to do when I get into the Blackboard section. And then they'll save it on their desktop. They'll be able to open it. They're going to have all of the marking in this text, and that's going to be the evidence that they're going to use then later on to answer a text-dependent question. So we're teaching them how to read like detectives, how to find evidence, and then how to take that evidence and apply it to a text-dependent question. It's one of the struggles that we have when we are grading, that we have a lot of students who just don't know how to do that. They haven't been taught. So it's a fabulous opportunity to teach them how to do this. Another part of the criteria for giving credit for a live lesson is having a text-based question. Okay, the questions that the students should be answering in their assessments, they should be text-based. I know we have a lot of questions that are not, and it makes it difficult for the students to be able to provide evidence from the text to answer the questions. That's why we have the assessment chart that does include 2 questions that are text-dependent questions. You're going to have a question up here that is going to be based on the text that they read and that they marked. They're going to have their screenshots open in the background, and they're going to use those screenshots, and that's going to be their notes to find the evidence in order to answer their questions. We want them to put their names on here, and then to answer the text-dependent question in at least 1 or 2 complete sentences. Again, starting with capital letters, ending with punctuation. This is a great opportunity to teach students how to write something in a complete sentence. And, you know, they're not always going to have the correct answers, so you are going to want to read their answers. If their answers are incorrect, you want to direct them back to the screenshot. Make sure that you do have the screenshot saved for yourself, because you may find that some of them didn't actually save it because they thought they weren't actually going to use it, and you may have to send it again at this point. And then finally, this last slide should always be included. This is going to show them how to save their slides from the whole session. It saves everything that they've been typing up on the board. It saves all their text marking. It saves everything, but they need to save it in a PDF file in order for the teacher who is grading this assignment to be able to open it up and see what they did. And so this is the template that is being sent out. It's one that you can take it and use it however you want to. Make it your own and just be creative. So here's the one that I made for 3.07. And I called it On the Road to a New Car because that tends to be one of the biggest goals that students have, is to buy a new car. So you can see how on this title page I did combine my sound check with my title page. Okay, I have up here how they should be signed in, the green check. I'm going to ask them, you know, all of that in the lesson that I want them to have open in the background. And I remind them that if they have not read the module, they can join me next week if this is the lesson that I'm doing. Here's my icebreaker. This is actually in the live lesson. We'll have pennies coming down the sides, and those will be tiles that students will be able to move, and I'm going to show you how to do that, how to make the pennies in there, and then add them to a whiteboard file and then upload them so that the students can actually drag them around. And so this icebreaker is just an opportunity for them to type up what their goals are and kind of just get a little hands-on moving their pennies around. I've got my little Simon Says slide going, so I'm going to teach them their tools. This is my objectives. They're going to be working in Module 3, Lesson 3.02. This is the name of the title for that lesson. What are they going to learn? They're going to learn the risks involved in financial goals. They're going to actively participate, and then they're going to submit proof. Active engagement, you can see how I changed this slide a little bit. And what I wanted to do to make it a little bit more interactive with the students, instead of me telling them what active engagement is, I'm going to let them tell me what active engagement is and let them type that up on the board. I can add to their ideas. If they are missing some things that I think are imperative, I can always add that in there, or ask questions, probing questions to get them to think of them on their own and then type them up here. And I can have them type on this side and, you know, put some clip art over here to show that they agree, or I don't even have to do that. I can just have them fill this board with different things that show active engagement. Here's my essential question. It comes from the standards 3.04 and 3.05. And I'm asking them what influences your ability to achieve your financial goals. Okay, This is not something that has to come from the lessons. Like I said before, this shows me their prior knowledge. There's not really a right or wrong answer. It's predictive writing. It shows me their background knowledge. It allows them to collaborate with each other. I'm going to ask them to type their answers in complete sentences. I'm going to check and make sure that every student has given me an answer on this page. If they have not, if a student has not given me an answer, I'm going to ask them. I'm going to call them by name and I'm going to say, so, Bob, what influences your ability to achieve your financial goals? And we're going to move on from there after everybody has given at least one answer. But you may find students want to really fill the board up and encourage them to fill the board, give as many ideas as they can. Here's my text marking you're going to see in the Blackboard. When I pull up Blackboard, you're going to see what tools I'm using up here in order for them to text mark. I am only going to use one slide and have them do both of their reads and their text marking on one slide, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. And then this right here is their text-dependent question, and they're going to answer in here. I'll ask them to include their name right here so that the teacher who is grading will know what the students answered. They'll be able to see because their name will be on this slide in the beginning and it'll be on this slide at the end. They'll see that they did stay for the entire live lesson. This last slide right here, this is the one that's going to show them how to save their slides and then submit it for lesson 3.07. In order to use manipulative tiles, the little pictures that they can slide around, let me show you how you are going to add those. This is the actual file that I'm going to load into Blackboard. And what I've done is, because I'm using the piggy bank and I want to have pennies going down the sides, I created an extra slide. I right-clicked and I just hit New Slide, and that created the slide here. I already had these images saved, and I just inserted picture and then just found the pictures and inserted them in here. When I copy and paste these into Blackboard, typically they end up being bigger than what they are in the PowerPoint. So that's why I've made these a little bit smaller than what I actually want them to be. And the other place that I was using manipulative tiles is in my text marking. I wanted to use little pennies up here. And so I had a new slide, created a new blank slide, and if you look really, really tiny here, we have a little tiny penny right there. And so if you're going to use manipulative tiles, that's what you're going to do in your PowerPoint. You'll just create, and I have a document that I can send out to show you how to do this. You'll just create a new slide and you just need one if you're going to be using the same thing over and over again, because you can just copy and paste it numerous times. So this is what I'm actually going to upload into Blackboard. Make sure that you have PowerPoint closed when you go to load this. It won't be able to load the files if you have PowerPoint open. All right, so you can see, I don't know, this just bugs me, this little blank white thing that always comes up, the little blank page. So I always like to get rid of that. So what I did was I just right-clicked on it, select page, delete, and got rid of that. Okay. This is where I want to have my manipulative tiles. You can see on this page, that's where I had added them. But I can't take them from this slide and put them on this slide. Okay, so what I need to do now is to open up my PowerPoint in the background. Like I said, it can't be open when you're loading it. So after you've loaded it, go ahead and open it up. And what you're going to do is you're going to copy from here. And then when you're back on into your Blackboard, right click and then paste it on the page. Okay, you can move it around wherever you want to. Once it's copied, you can just be hitting Control V for pasting, and you can put as many of these on here as you want. And you'll just, of course, you'll line them up nice and pretty how you want them. Okay, and then you will delete this page because you don't need this page in your whiteboard file. So right click, selected pages, hit delete, yes. Okay, the other place that I wanted to add manipulative tiles was on my text marking. I wanted to have some pennies up here. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint and I'm going to find that page, and I am going to select that, right click it, copy, back into Blackboard, up here, right click, paste page, and there's my penny. Notice how it's bigger than it was in my PowerPoint. So when you're saving them in your PowerPoint, you always want to save them a little bit smaller. And I want to have a bunch of them up here. So I'm just going to keep adding pennies, and I'm going to put them, you'll see in the new one, I would actually line these up a whole lot nicer. And then I'm going to delete this page because I don't need it. Okay. Now I'm going to just double check. I'm going to go through all my slides and make sure that I have everything that I need, that I've deleted the slides that I don't want. Make sure that everything looks the way that I want it. There's not any more manipulative tiles that I need to add. And it's pretty much the way that I would want it. Just a few changes. You'll see the final product later. And this is how I'm going to save this as a whiteboard. I'm going to hit File, Save, Whiteboard. All pages is clicked. Click OK. And I want to make sure, since I'm using this as a whiteboard, I want to make sure that I have it saved as a WBD file. Okay, and you can see that I've already done that. I've already saved it. So I'm going to hit cancel. You're going to hit save. Okay. Okay, so now I have my whiteboard. I have it loaded. I have all of my tiles where I want them. You'll notice that I switched these two slides so that the students are going to learn the tools before they do their icebreaker. That way they know how to drag the pennies, they know how to type in there, and I'm just going to real quick run through the slides. This is the title page, just like I had showed you before. Simon Says page. This is where they're going to be using all these tools, learning how to use the tools. If you need help, if you need additional help with how to use these tools yourself, please let me know and I'll go into a session with you and I will teach you how to use all those tools. Okay, so here I have my pennies all lined up. Okay, they just learned in the last slide how to use the selection tool, how to use the typing tool, so they should know how to do this. And I'm going to ask the students to drag the pennies in and into the piggy bank. We want to fill up the piggy bank and we want to type in our goals. Don't worry about if they type outside of the penny. It's not a big deal. Okay, so a typical goal for a high school student would be to buy a car. We're not looking for complete sentences in here. We're just looking for goals, okay? And they're going to, they're going to be just dragging their pennies in there and filling it up. They've got pennies on both sides and fill up that piggy bank with all their different goals, okay? The next page was the accomplishments. This one, we're going to ask them to use the typing tool and type up on the board what active engagement looks like. The essential question, again, using the typing tool, they're writing on the board. Sometimes the students will have a hard time writing on the board, and something that you can do if they do have trouble with that, tell them to go ahead and type it in the chat box, and then you can highlight it. You can use this tool. You can highlight up here whatever they've typed in the chat box, and then you can go up here and you can paste it on there for them. Okay? You don't want to waste time. That's not something that's going to enhance their learning. Whether they write it on the whiteboard or write it in the chat box does not enhance their learning. So rather than hold up the live lesson, just remember that that's something that you can do. It's a solution to an issue. So if they cannot type on the whiteboard, you're going to go ahead and move it for them and make that easier. Okay, so here's with the text marking, how we're going to use the manipulative tiles. It's expected that the students have already read this block of text one time, as we discussed earlier. And so this is going to be their second read. And so you're going to encourage the students to read straight through, read the entire block of text. And what they're looking for, they're reading like detectives, they're reading for evidence, and what they're looking for is the 4 different types of personal risks. You don't have to tell them that there's 4 if it's something like that. You know, you can just tell them what it is specifically that they want to be looking for. Remind them that they're not skimming, they are reading for detail. They're reading deeply for detail. For this one specifically, there just happens to be 4. Using the manipulative tiles as they come across the different types of risk, they can just drag that tile over there. I include extra tiles so that one student doesn't do the entire thing and then other students don't get to participate. So there's no problem if you have 2 pennies on the same risk. Okay, that's their second read. For their third read for this example, I'm going to have the students read through again, reading like detectives. What they're looking for are characteristics of each of the types of risk. And what they're going to do is they're going to use the draw a line tool. They're going to get a green underline. So they'll come down here, click on the draw a line tool, click on the color, pick green. Doesn't have to be the same green for everybody. If they want to make it fatter, they can make it fatter right there. And then as they're reading through, looking for detail. Oh, here's a type of risk, inflation risk, prices on an item or a service may rise or fall. Okay, that's a characteristic of that. So students will go ahead and underline that. Sorry about that, messy. I picked up my mouse too soon. So they'll read through and students will go through and underline. It's really fun when you have multiple things for them to look through and you have a lot of different colors and all of that. It just makes it a lot of fun. It makes it very interactive. You can see the students are reading for information. They're reading deeply and they're pulling out the information the way that we want them to do in their assessments. Pulling out that information that they can later apply to their assessments. When students are all done, you ask them to give you a green check and you know that everybody's done. This is where you want to use Snagit and just take a screenshot of this. I can't do it because I'm already using Snagit to record, but this is where you're going to take a screenshot of just this screen. Now to send it to them, you'll take the screenshot, save it on your desktop. I always name it text marking and I just change it every week. You go to File, Open, File for Transfer. Okay, then I'm just going to go to my desktop. I'm going to find text marking JPEG. If for some reason they can't open a JPEG, I also have one as a PDF. Just another way, if there's a technical issue, just another way of quickly resolving that issue and being able to move on. So I'm going to open that up and it's going to send it to the students. This is what you're going to see. This is going to come up. So you can see when it's been sent. Okay, it'll say server. This really is supposed to be green. I don't know why it's not, but that means that it's been sent to the students. Ask the students to give you a green check when they've gotten it. This saves you time from having them take the screenshot because that just seems to take twice as long. There's a lot of technical issues. Some don't know how to do it. This way you're just sending them the file. And then moving forward, here is my example of the text-dependent question. I want them to answer in a minimum of 2 complete sentences for this one. I'm having them use their screenshots for their notes to find evidence. And so here's my question. Based on the text, what is your financial goal and what risks could be involved with this goal? So I'm looking for 2 different things. I'm looking for their financial goal, and I'm looking for risks that they just read about, okay? And you want to see an explanation of how that risk is being used, okay, or how it's impacting their financial goal. So they're using supporting detail from the text, and then be sure that they include their name. So they can type their name and then type their answer, and then type their name. Either way, just so that you have their name on there. And then finally, we're walking through how to save this as a PDF file. They're going up to save, save the whiteboard, all pages, see how the match is, clicking OK, reminding them to save it on their desktop or someplace if they have a certain place that they want to save all of their personal finance information. They'll go there. They're dropping this down and picking PDF, and then they're going to name this. You'll see what the name is. 307 underscore session. Just remind them not to put periods in the file names. If they put periods in the file names, a lot of times the teachers can't open them. If they don't have the underscore, it's not a big deal. Just as long as you know 307 session, something that's going to make it obvious to the teacher that that it is coming from the live lesson, and making sure that it is a PDF file. And that is pretty much it. Then they just go to their assessments and they attach that PDF file to the appropriate assessment and submit it for credit. So if you have any questions at all about this, make sure that you do contact me. I can work with you one-on-one if you're having any trouble with this. But hopefully this at least gets you started.